What is it like being a civil engineer? Civil engineering is a very demanding yet fulfilling career, as the engineer is able to work on a project from its inception right to its completion. When you drive over a bridge, see a building, fly out of an airport, or visit a museum, a civil engineer has had a major part in that project. Civil engineers have many duties. They interact with clients, customers, inspectors, suppliers, vendors, architects, and design teams. They submit and revise drawings many times over until they are approved. They also spend time tendering, looking at reports, doing cost estimates, analyzing designs and infrastructures, testing, commissioning, and spend time on construction sites to see what progress is being made on projects. Construction sites need to be visited and monitored frequently, in all kinds of weather conditions, to make sure work is going smoothly and disputes are resolved in a timely manner in order to meet specific deadlines. Civil engineers perform engineering duties in planning, designing, and overseeing construction and maintenance of building structures, and facilities, such as roads, railroads, airports, bridges, harbors, channels, dams, irrigation projects, pipelines, power plants, and water and sewage systems. They also inspect project sites to monitor progress and ensure conformance to design specifications and safety or sanitation standards. Other tasks include: design or engineer systems to efficiently dispose of chemical, biological, or other toxic wastes. Compute load and grade requirements, water flow rates, or material stress factors to determine design specifications. Provide technical advice to industrial or managerial personnel regarding design, construction, program modifications, or structural repairs. Test soils or materials to determine the adequacy and strength of foundations, concrete, asphalt, or steel. Manage and direct the construction, operations, or maintenance activities at project site. Direct or participate in surveying to lay out installations or establish reference points, grades, or elevations to guide construction. So you want to be series interviews men and women in engineering or jobs that require an engineering background to ask about their career, how they got into their line of work, and what their job entails. Today's interview is with Rebecca Clark, a civil engineer and project manager at Skanska Koch, a division of the construction, engineering giant Skanska USA that specializes in building infrastructure such as roads, bridges and tunnels. She has nearly 13 years experience in engineering, from offshore oil rigs to a $500 million rehabilitation of the Brooklyn Bridge. Her current project is the rehabilitation of the Fore River Bridge just outside Boston. Tell us a little about your background. Originally from New Jersey, I attended a 5-year joint program with Columbia and Fairfield University, in Connecticut, for my undergraduate education. So I have a bachelor's degree in physics from Fairfield and a bachelor's in civil engineering from Columbia. The program's intent was to create a well-rounded engineer with a Bachelor of Arts in Physics and a Bachelor of Science in Civil Engineering. After graduation I worked on offshore oil rigs for 2 years and have been with Skanska since. I have been an engineer for 12 years now, almost 13. I am also currently pursuing an MBA at Fordham. Can you describe your work as a civil engineer with Skanska? Currently I am a project manager and basically, in this position, you act as a liaison between the owner and general contractors. So, for example, let's say the New York Department of Transportation, the designers, and then the labor force. As a project manager you oversee your team that supervises the labor force that's doing the physical work. And you are coordinating the design and different fabrication elements and act as the main liaison to the owner. What is a typical day like as a civil engineer project manager? In a typical day the job is usually about putting out fires, going to meetings, following up on the project, and making sure the project is moving according to the critical path or main schedule of the job. Though no 2 days are the same. Typically, day to day you are going to meetings, then on site observing work going on. And also coordinating with the different materials to ensure they are getting there on time. And then that the design components are in and submitted. And approved. Why did you choose civil engineering? I loved math and always had a passion for bridges. Really, I've always been awed by bridges. And I think one of my grandfathers once told me, I think you should be an engineer. So since the 7th or 8th grade I've always talked about being an engineer, and I think that really set the course. That was all I wanted to be. And for me, becoming an engineer was an important way to tangibly make a difference in the lives of others. The infrastructure of a city is its blood and lifeline. Buildings and sewage and bridges and tunnels and water, all are affiliated with infrastructure. Understanding how they are all connected is the equivalent of understanding how a city, and an economy, works. Infrastructure equals the heartbeat and pulse of a city. You are the first female engineer we've interviewed. So I have to ask, what is it like to be a woman in engineering? It isn't an issue, but it is definitely a hurdle. It is my understanding now that, in college engineering programs, the ratio is a little more equivalent. But when I was in it was only about 20%. Even with that low percentage, I only encountered one difficult professor. As a woman, you have to have thick skin. And you do have to be prepared to prove yourself at a different level. Once you gain the respect, as an engineer, then your coworkers will have your back, but it's definitely a part of the job. Proving yourself. You're always hard at work. You're invisible till you make yourself visible and gain the respect. As a whole, the construction industry isn't very diverse to begin with. It's still relatively new to have women working on the project, never mind being an engineer and running the project. At Skanska we are trying to focus on this by developing an engineering women's network. It's hard to retain women because it's an interesting profession to balance, especially from the operations side. You are on site frequently, working out of trailers, getting your boots on, getting your hands dirty, and you're exposed to different elements, and there are a lot of dangers and safety precautions in place. So I think the construction industry as a whole is trying to get a grip on that and trying to manage that, the lack of women in the industry. As a woman in engineering, I'd say it really has to be a passion. You just have to go to work and perform your job. That will speak volumes. What advice would you give a student who wants to be a civil engineer? As a student, do co-ops. Co-ops are great. When I was in college I always had internships, and I think, to me, those were priceless. A lot of people we hire end up coming through our co-op or internship programs. It gives the student and the company a chance to assess fit. So, if you are a student, make sure you take advantage of those opportunities. And I also think it's important for men and women as engineers to weigh out what kind of engineer they want to be. A lot of college engineering programs at base level involve all types of engineers, but when you decide what route to take, it's important that you really dive in and study the kind of engineering that interests you. What is the best part about being a civil engineer and project manager? The worst? The best part of the job is the ability to make a tangible difference. No matter which way you look at it, being involved in the infrastructure and components involved in transportation makes a big difference. It is a lifeline for a city, for people. You can physically see what you've built, and the revisions you've made. The negative components are all affiliated with the glass ceiling. And time. A lot of time. There are times you have to be on site in the middle of the night because there's an emergency. Your job is around the clock. And, also, it's a dangerous job. You are, on occasion, exposed to fatalities on the job. There is a lot of liability in construction, and as a project manager you are responsible for people's safety. Everyone preaches safety, but ensuring it is different. And when your job involves people's lives, it takes it up a few notches. How would you describe your work-life balance? Now I don't have children, so I think that would be a whole different level of trying to do a work-life balance. So my advice is not to get pigeonholed, in your civil engineering career, to stay flexible in your role, just in the event you want to have more of a work-life balance. You have to make yourself more marketable in that realm. What is civil engineering's career trajectory like? How do you climb the ladder? I think, climbing the ladder takes champions and sponsors. It's imperative that you build good relationships with managers and co-workers, and it is very helpful to have sponsors. By sponsors I mean someone that you have worked with, or worked for, that champions you and believes in you.